Today, I'm gonna be going over scooter clips that you guys have submitted to my TikTok and Instagram. If you've been following me long enough, you might know that I actually used to do this on my TikTok and Instagram, where you'd submit a video and I would make a video responding, giving tips on how to land your trick. Those were very limiting though. I only had about a minute, including the clip and the outro, to explain how to do all these tips. So I wanna make a long form video going much more in depth, talking about how to land the tricks that you guys have submitted. Today I'm gonna be looking at 3 videos that were submitted to me on TikTok, and I'm gonna be going over them for at least a minute each, trying to really hone in on exactly what you need to do to land it. I'm gonna be going over a variety of tricks of all different skill levels so that there's a tip in this video that applies to everybody. If you guys want tips for the tricks that you are trying, tag me in a video of a trick you're trying on Instagram and TikTok, and you might just make it into the next video. Let's get right into this. So one thing I noticed that a lot of people struggling with tail whips flat is that a lot of people struggle with getting really good hops. You don't need insane hops to do a good tail whip flat, but it's definitely helpful to get some good air. There really isn't any easy way to improve your hops other than just practicing, but I do have a few tips that might be able to help. In this video, I noticed that he's kind of like holding the squat to try to get a good jump. I don't think that's very helpful. I kind of go for more of like a bouncing technique where I like set up. A couple of like light bounces followed by a really explosive jump I think is gonna be far more helpful for getting a good hop than just kind of holding that squat. Just doing one explosive jump alone isn't gonna help your hops a ton, but I think that plus practicing, like hopping over cones, hopping up ledges, really hopping up anything nearby or at the skate park is definitely gonna help improve your bunny hops. So practicing the motion as well as practicing your hops will go a long way for learning tail whips flat. I also noticed that a lot of beginners swing their scooter across instead of doing like the tail whip motion. And that's not terrible if you're just doing one whip out of a ramp, but it makes the tail whip really awkward to pull around because you're pulling it to the side of you and the tail whip is no longer gonna be under your feet. This is one of the most important things about tail whip, keeping it under your feet. If you pull it to the side of you, yeah, it might work for one tail whip, but you're gonna struggle doing things like tail whips flat or multiple whips. To break this habit, I just recommend doing the standard tail whip motion. I go over that in my deep dive video teaching tail whips. I find that kind of working on them over time as you progress is much easier than trying to grind out tail whips flat. If you can't do a tail whip flat today, that's totally okay. Just practice the motion, practice getting tail whips out of ramps as cleanly as you can, and practice your hops. Practice the tail whip motion, practice jumping up curbs, but if you can't get it that day, just go back to the skate park and practice, and they'll come eventually. But ultimately, I would say avoid swinging the scooter across and try to keep it more under your feet and practice that motion to try to break that habit. But they're very tricky at first, so keep practicing. Whip rewind kicklist. Doing a whip rewind to heel kicklist is gonna be the easiest way of doing this trick. That's what he's doing in the video, but I just wanted to point that out for anybody else trying this trick because sometimes I see people doing it the wrong way and it's gonna make it much harder. My specific advice for this rider right here, I noticed that the kicklist is pretty large and a little bit off balance. He's kind of doing it to his side. I think that keeping the kicklist in front of you, like square with your shoulders, and keeping the kicklist as small as you can throw it is gonna help this trick come around faster and far more balanced. Having that kicklist to the side is like throwing your weight out to the side and you're gonna get a little bit off balance. The kicklist is the slowest part of this trick, so I think really dialing in this motion and cleaning up that kicklist is gonna make this trick come around much faster and it's gonna be so much easier. And now another tip that doesn't exactly apply to this, but is gonna be helpful, is clearing the box. Clearing the box is never an essential part of any trick, but it cleans up the whole trick. And personally, I find I'm more likely to commit to the trick that I'm trying if I clear the ramp that I'm trying it on. So my advice for this rider is really dial in that motion. Make sure that the motion is clean and tight and in front of you. And when you're throwing that kicklist, just try to muscle that kicklist, keep it small, keep it tight, and it will come around much quicker. I also recommend that if you can clear that box jump, go for clearing it. It's gonna be much easier to land this trick. You're gonna have more airtime and the whole thing is just gonna be a little bit cleaner. Keep practicing, man. I know you got this. for the nothing front scoot, I think it looks pretty good. Most people struggle with the flick. When they throw it, it either goes like way too high or they can't get it around fast enough. But this rider definitely seems like he's pretty comfortable getting it around. I do think that when he threw it, the scooter was a little bit high. Usually I like to keep the scooter kind of like in front of me. His was a little bit more in front of his head. But, you know, that's a little bit nitpicky. I think he can still land it by throwing it like this. One of the most important things about nothing front scooter flips is the last like third of the trick. After you catch it and you're pulling it down, you need to grab the bars as hard as you can and just pull it down. I think getting your feet on can also be tricky because the scooter's kind of coming straight down. So I recommend practicing things like inwards for learning how to catch it and getting comfortable catching it. But ideally, when you catch the bars, you just grab them as hard as you can and you pull as hard as you can. This will make it so that the last third of the trick is much faster and you're not waiting for the scooter to come under you. You can kind of force it around and even catch it. One thing that I find interesting about this trick is, in my experience, I've actually found that it's not always best to go higher for this trick. Sometimes when I go higher, I psych myself out and I mess up the throw, or the throw doesn't come around as fast. I like going a very medium, comfortable height to make sure that I can focus on the technique of this trick. So, finding a height that works for you that is also high enough to land this trick is really important, and I generally recommend just going a height that's more comfortable. Really, I recommend, you know, practicing a couple inwards, getting familiar with the catch of a trick that's coming straight down. When you're trying the trick for real, just grabbing the bars as hard as you can and pulling it down as quick as you can. But other than that, I really think it just comes down to practice. Keep practicing, man. I know you got this. Those are my tips for these 3 riders. I really enjoyed going more in depth in this video on all of these tips. I hope all of them are helpful. If you enjoyed this, please share it with somebody who can use these tips. If these tips were helpful for you, please make sure to like this video and leave a comment. And if you want help on any of your tricks, please make sure to tag me on Instagram and TikTok, and you might just be featured in the next video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.